The rain continued to fall outside. Inside, it was time for bodies to start hitting the floor. The gunner was terrified of what stood before his eyes. This time, his night vision was a disadvantage, seeing as how he was the first one to die. Xiao made short work of Joseph the gunner. The stench of blood alerted his teammates to his demise. Lightning lit up Xiao's approach, saving the leader from sudden death. He was only just able to block in time. If he had been any slower, he wouldn't be contemplating the situation he was in. The mage took the opening presented to him, and launched a giant ice spike in his direction. Xiao deflected it without much thought. He didn't appreciate being interrupted while playing with his prey. So, the mage lost his head without a second thought. And the leader soon followed. The flying bird sword crow was drenched in blood. If I was reinforcement for this company, I would have gone home. These guys stood no chance, if only they had valued their lives over a job. Xiao walked away, leaving a mess in his wake. The boss finally showed his face. Xiao sniffed the air and got a whiff of rank 6 professional stink. Hopefully this fencer could put up a fight. He could sense that Xiao wasn't a demon, as he didn't possess the demonic madness that one felt when in the presence of such scum. And he also knew that he wasn't a transformation specialist either, for they wouldn't be able to put out such an aura. He knew that such a creature was rare. And when it was over, dead or alive, Zhao's body would compensate him for the losses that he brought upon his company. Such a company could only exist if the people in power were backing it. This company was no different. Too bad the people in power were not on humanity's side. They spent all their time trying to fuse humans with demons. So having such a hybrid drop into their laps would make up for the failures that happened here today. The fencer vanished and went for Zhao's head. Yes, this was going to be interesting. In one move, the level 6 fencer knew what he was up against, and decided to teach the half-demon a lesson. His barrage had no effect upon Zhao's armor. The fencer decided it was time to finish this. He made a point-blank attack to Zhao's chest. A smile spread across his face as it forced the demon to dodge, putting him in the perfect position for a sleight of hand Python 357 to the face. This attack was his ace in the hole. It was so devastating that no one had ever survived. He felt it was a pity he couldn't take this creature alive. But the body should be good enough. When the smoke cleared, Xiao stood there, hate radiating from his face. And the fencer knew things had taken a bad turn. There's no way anyone could dodge that attack. He could only have evaded. If he knew I was going to faint from the beginning. Who are you? How could you know? Xiao responded. The 19th Reaper style. Xiao had never seen anyone with such a low level capable of accomplishing so much with the style that he created. It was easy to learn, and anyone could master it if they put in enough time and effort. But there was a rule that everyone who learned had to follow. Only ones who were on the path of righteousness could wield such a style. Xiao confronted him about this fact. What business is it to a monster like you? Sure, this is the style created by Mask. Can you not see that I'm using it to annihilate a monster like you? Is that not righteous? Your entire corporation is built off the back of destroying innocent families. I really don't care who stepped on your toes, or the toes of someone you care about. But let me make this easy for you to understand, demon. The progress of human society shall march on infinitely, and any force that impedes it, whether it be creatures or mankind itself, shall be deemed sinners, and their transgressions should be eradicated. The path I walk has always been righteous. A monster such as you could not comprehend such a thing. He dashed forward. A barrage of attacks encircled him as he moved. But Xiao was done playing. He brought out his heavy hitters. He decided to show this scum how the path of the Reaper was meant to be used. His first attack initiated the dodge, as his second attack hit its mark, and a barrage of attacks like no other ensued. As he lay on his deathbed, he wondered what kind of monster used sneak attacks. If you weren't so full of yourself, you would have heard me clearly tell you who I was. Xiao drew his bird blade and fed it its final meal of the night. Equipment name: Blood Raven. Unlimited growth type weapon. Equipment details: this blade that has been stained by the blood of demons welcomes its own rebirth. A muddy sea of blood is hidden within its body, and while wielding it, this bloody sea will surge forward aggressively. When the user doesn't need it, this sword can be kept within a space of the system. It can be retrieved into reality from the system at any time. Special ability: Blood Raven, unlimited growth potential. Sends forward a powerful blade of blood that can easily tear through the ground. So, you aren't Flying Crow anymore? You're Blood Raven? You know you haven't changed at all on the surface. But I can tell you crave strength. Shao and Blood Raven. We're going to be perfect together. An infinitely growing monster paired with an infinite growing demon blade. The two together sounded just a little OP. Shao found a straggler and fed the raven, sending the blast out the side of a skyscraper. The battle inside the corrupt headquarters had attracted the military. I guess that's to be expected seeing as how this company had some pretty high backers. The military has spent their time, wisely blocking all escapes. They were now ready to move in. But the Commander Jiang, first priority was to limit casualties. He ordered for all attempts to be made to solve this peacefully. He knew that less than half of the people in that building was innocent. Above all else, it was the job of the federal government to lay judgment upon criminals. It was not the job of a random bystander. Whoever was inside would not be let off the hook easily, no matter what their excuse was. Shao exited the building, surrendering peacefully. Yan-Cece rushed out to find Shao after her sister only just informed her of his actions. Before she could make it out of her yard, the Civil Defense Army had arrived to question her. "Ma'am, are you Qian? Sir, I'm in a hurry. Did something happen? We're currently investigating this man. Is he an acquaintance of yours? Shao Qiu?" She was worried for her friend's safety. No way he was dead because of her family's troubles. "It's okay, ma'am. He's in good health." Shao was being held at the Civil Defense Army's exclusive prison. He wasn't being cooperative with their investigation. They hadn't managed to get a single drop of information out of him. Other than admitting to his crimes, his lips were zipped. "Our investigation has returned 0 pings on this man. He's literally a ghost. We looked into the name he gave us, Shao Qiu, and it turned out to be related to a woman named Yan-Cece. That's where things got interesting. Our investigation triggered the people over at the Monitoring Bureau. They have been frantically searching for a mysterious thief who can bypass all their detections. They believe our suspect fits the bill. That's mysterious indeed. Give me all the information you have on this Yan-Cece. She's a level 2 professional healer. And her father was a level 5 professional who served in the army. He retired after being wounded. And the most interesting part is he was offered a position as an official in the government. But he politely declined. The great obscenity incident took him from this world a few years ago. He was survived by his 2 daughters, the youngest of which became disabled because of the very same incident. Yan-Cece's deposition is that her original team, the Steel Cutting Squad, ran into him while exploring the secret realm. This statement is what triggered the Bureau of Investigation. There is no official record of him being there. Let me guess, the Kaijiang Corporation has been harassing her family for their land rights. Yes, sir. So, we're prosecuting a righteous warrior. The head of the Monitoring Bureau, Director Arthur, was eager to put this thief away. He wasn't going to waste any time with red tape. Between him and Commander Jian, there should be no problem, seeing as how they were the 2 strongest people in Day City. Shao was hit with a bout of nostalgia upon seeing the honors pinned to the commander's coat. The sharp eye of the commander picked up on this. "Shao Qiu, while I believe your actions were righteous, a crime is a crime. I'm pretty sure you know the extent of the punishment handed out for such a crime. You will be sentenced to death. Or given the choice to be enlisted in the Atonement Battalion. In my opinion, the death penalty is the better of the 2 options. But if you survive the hell you'll be put through, you'll be acquitted of your sins and be able to return to civilization." The commander knew that the Atonement Battalion was a death trap. No one had ever returned back to civilization from that program. There was a high chance that anyone that entered would die in the first battle. And most criminals must face at least 100, and some as high as 3,000 battles. Shao asked why serving on the front line was considered a punishment. He knew his experiences on the front line should clear him of a lifetime of sins. The commander knew a veteran of the front line when he saw one. "What was your status? Warriors fighting against monsters. Or were you in other status?" Shao admitted to being other. The 2 men stared at each other. There was a short list of survivors of the front line. It shouldn't take them long to discover his true identity with this information. The 2 explained their history from the monster front line. They were both considered veterans, even though Arthur had spent drastically less time on the line. If it wasn't for the actions of Mask and the first group of heroes, the divide between humans and monsters would not have been formed. This medal signifies the fact that I fought under the great hero mask. At the time I was younger, and the best I could do was to follow him from afar. As someone who's been on the front lines, you should understand how important this peaceful environment is. And your actions could directly endanger all we've worked hard for. Can you enter special realms without being noticed? Xiao neither admitted nor denied the accusations. Such news could lead to social unrest. Your actions could lead to the death of an unknown number of professionals, and cause our stable world to fall into chaos. Xiao showed no signs of caring. The two veterans picked up on this, and tried to talk sense into the young fellow. The federal government won't take kindly to your attitude. It's the equivalent of trying to smash a rock with an egg. I do hope you decide to confess. If we send you to the federal capital, things won't go so easily. And I hate to see the talent of the young wasted. The two veterans left the room, leaving Xiao to his thoughts. He had fond memories of the federal capital. The fact that he wanted to visit just wasn't possible at the moment. Main mission: the Great Obscenity Reincarnation. Mission description: who would have imagined that a few years ago the Great Obscenity wasn't completely eradicated? Its residue, infectious radiation in people's body, is actually an unstable source of calamity. If not completely removed, then the Great Obscenity will be reborn from accumulated enhanced infectious radiation over time. Since the government did not make it their priority to cleanse away all traces of radiation, there's a high chance that the Great Obscenity will return in the next few hours. Mission objective: destroy the new calamity. Mission reward: Great Obscenity Core. Xiao as the mask was never that impressed by the calamity level monsters. They were only ever as strong as level 13, and the weakest being as weak as level 7. He really didn't need the system to tell him that the Great Obscenity would come back. This exact scenario happened in his previous life. Not long after the first time he went through that scam of a trial, the Great Obscenity laid wait in the cells of a professional, eventually turning them into its host. It's just like a weed. No matter what you do, you can't eradicate it. If you leave the smallest root in the ground, eventually it'll come back. He had been just transferred to the front line when the calamity hit. It took him time to get back to eradicate it. Even though he killed it with one punch, the public still looked down on him for not being faster. The disrespect, verbal abuse he received as a hero. How come you weren't fast enough? You should always be the first one to arrive on the scene. We've given you such light punishment, and you still don't know how to be grateful. This is your fault. If you had killed it the first time, this wouldn't have happened again. You should apologize to the public. Apologize to the world. He put his life on the line for these people, and they made him get up in front of them and apologize for sacrificing everything for them. Not once, but twice in his past life. That's why this time around, the hero mask doesn't exist. Only Xiao Qiu. And he wouldn't take responsibility for saving everyone when the calamity hit. They can do it themselves. The two old veterans discussed their strategy moving forward. Author, I've been retired from the front lines for a while now. You know more about the status of the monster front than I do. Do you think what he says is possible? It shouldn't be too hard to find out. I've never seen anyone his age have such power. If you saw the horrors in that building, you would think there was a monster outbreak. Even the wounds left by his blade were unusual. A blade which we've searched tirelessly for, and haven't been able to recover. I'm sure he's cultivating multiple professional paths at the same time. There's no other explanation. It's highly likely we have a genius on our hands. Most people would have a hard time even touching a level 6 professional. And he casually chopped one's head off. And to be traversed in multiple class systems. It takes most people a lifetime to get the hang of just one. He's more like a dumb genius. To throw your life away over such trash like Kaijiam. We have no other choice but to leave his judgment up to the Federation. Yeah, a Federation that even judged the mask, and threw our first line of defense out the window. What bad timing for such a young genius. Star City. The federal government capital. Before the Dark Ages, the whole site that this beautiful masterpiece resides on was that of a third-tier city of the 20th and 21st century. This whole city is a beacon to mankind. Its purpose was to lead mankind into the future. The Federal Council sat around discussing Xiao. There was a difference of opinion at the table. Some believed that the horror that he showed in a single night could only be punished with the death penalty. Others believed they should cultivate such talent. But the group of old men trying to hold on to power wasn't interested in someone who could be the next mask. They believed him to be a danger to the public. The most vocal among them was the true owner of Kaijian Corporation. He was furious he lost his cash cow in a single night. He cared nothing about the lives lost. All he cared about was the money lost and the time it would take to get the corporation back up and running. He was only interested in saving face. He was upset that the leader wanted to send his target to the front line to die out of the public's eye. What message would that send to all his other white gloves around the world? And with that, the conversation turned back to the subject that the president was obsessed with. The head spent considerable resources searching for the mask with no luck. None of the council members dared to open their mouth. No one just disappears. He has to be somewhere in this world. Yet none of you have found a single trace of him. Are you all not worried that one day he's going to pop up? And give us a surprise of a lifetime? Sir, we have nothing to worry about. He released all his power. Then what do you call that disappearing act? What can he do with whatever he has left, Mr. President? Sir, our propaganda machine is in full force. His fans are disappearing by the day. No one in the public would ever support him if he tried to attack us. He represents an unknown danger to all of us. The president knew he had complete power over the Federation. There was only one man out there with a trump card against him. He conceded so much power to everyone in this room just to get rid of the mask, and he's still out there. For the sake of everyone here, we need to find the mask and put a leash on him. Let's move on to other topics. Sir, the monster frontlines seem to be failing. The appearance of monsters have increased by 32% over the previous month. This is the first time there has been an increase since the founding of the Federation. Everyone knew this was a clear side effect of losing the mask. He was the perfect soldier. Why did we choose to attack him? He never interfered in any of our business. How dare you question the decisions of this council? Do you believe without the mask our Federation won't survive? I believe if something serious happened, we would be in trouble. Peace makes soldiers weak, and the council should do something about it. The president ordered the most valuable troops to be sent to the front line. A council member instantly refuted this idea. The city defenders are the last line of defense for all the cities around the world. It would be unwise to redeploy them. This triggered infighting. Yes, it would hurt your pocketbooks to lose access to the city defense force. Yeah, doesn't your family supply the equipment for the defense force? It doesn't sound like it'll bode well for your company. How dare all of you slander me? The president put his hand down. It's settled. The city defense force will be redeployed to the most vulnerable areas. There hasn't been a wide-scale demon outbreak in cities in years. It's imperative that we downsize them immediately and have this criminal brought to the capital post-haste. It'll be good for everyone if an example of him is made in the public eye. Back in Day City, the two sisters were sent home. You two have nothing to do with this incident, so you're free to go. If you're needed by the courts, you will be summoned as a witness. Qianlu was not pleased by any of this. The female soldier continued to run on at the mouth, oblivious to the feelings of the two. Vicious. Why did you call him vicious? He stood up to such trash and he's vicious. He has the blood of countless humans on his hand. Killing is not the solution to anyone's problems. He killed not a single innocent person. The whole corporation has an unknown number of victims all over the city, and he's vicious. This whole system is the definition of viciousness. The commander approached, agreeing with everything that she said. He believed that each one of them deserved to die. It was not his place to be judge and jury. That task belonged to the Federation and the Federation alone. Qianlu was having none of this. Then how come you chose not to stop them? Just like the light from the sun, there will always be darkness that can't be dispelled by light. So you believe we ought to just endure the darkness? The world was built off of sacrifices, young lady. So, you're saying that there's no way for the world to resist the darkness? Your personal rebellion is unjust. So, you're saying I should lay down and take what's fed to me? Even if it's unjust? If that's the case, this whole world is a mistake. Yensi's heart throbbed for her little sister. She had taken on the world and its injustice, and no longer had the ability to scream in its face. You're not going to accomplish anything here. Let's go home, little one. As they left, the commander wished the young lady had the ability to stand. The anger in her is beyond anything I've ever seen. The world is lesser because of her disability. Who knows where I would be if I had the same level of anger when I was her age. She should get over it. Nothing will ever come from it in her condition. Her rage is worthless to her and the world. Qianlu, go get rest, I'll clean up the yard, and think of a solution for Xiao. The events of the day had broken the restraints that Qianlu held inside. If there are areas in the world where the sun doesn't shine, then I shall be the light. If there are such areas of darkness, then there is no need for the sun to exist. Qianlu rose from her chair and prepared to be the justice the world needed. Yan Sisi rushed back. She had forgotten the house was still a mess. She was shocked that her sister was walking towards her. Qianlu, quick, run! Her rage from that day was all that was needed to resurrect the great obscenity. The civil defense forces were in an uproar all over the world. People were handing in their resignations left and right. Everyone knew that the monster front lines was essentially a death sentence. The commander was in the middle of a speech to gain control of the situation when he felt the presence of the great obscenity. Commander, what's going on? It's not possible, but the great obscenity is back. The commander knew that time was of the essence. He had no time to reassure them one way or the other. He burst through the skyscraper's window. As he leaped out, he gave the order to begin evacuating Day City. The citizens of Day City went about their business as usual. News of Xiao's capture was being broadcast to the public. 3 days ago, the city defense force swiftly captured the culprit behind the massacre at Kaijiang building. Pink flowers began to blossom all over the city. A young man wondered if it was due to the warmer weather recently, until he noticed their rapid growth. A bumblebee landed on a flower, only to be consumed. She swiftly transformed into a flower. The whole city was unaware of the danger that awaited them. The young man's brother wondered what was wrong as the light had turned green. The sight that unfolded was not pleasant. His body vanished, sending petals floating on the wind. The citizens were unaware of the dangers the petals possessed. Some were already in full panic mode. As giant amalgamation rolled through the streets like children at play, the citizens were being transformed into rose-headed beasts, one after the other. Lucky for them, a hero with high charisma was there to save them all. Psych, this fool will most likely be dead soon. He swung his broadsword, cutting the amalgamation in half. Cool words flowed from his lips. And without putting up much of a fight, he too was consumed. That was all it took for the other professionals to realize the danger they were in. That green glow. Is this the great obscenity? The civil defense force was outnumbered before they arrived on the scene. Commander, this is the opposite of the great obscenity. Instead of decaying, they're all growing. Nothing has truly changed. If we don't stop this here, the world is doomed. He named them human flowers. I'm going to call them rose heads. The commander ordered his men to be on guard. Nothing's ever simple but monsters, so be ready. They were going to focus on containment. They were each to spread out by streets, and keep the rose heads isolated to their section. The defense force members took no time following this order. The citizens were being consumed one after the other as they ran for their lives. The commander ordered the citizens to move. Otherwise, they'd be toast. He let out a dragon's breath that blasted through the city, its intent to burn away the infection. All he did was give the spectators a false sense of hope. As the rose heads burst into flames, their petals scattered, infecting anyone in their vicinity. The great obscenity's pathogens passed on, even through ash. The spread of roses was only the beginning. It was as if Mother Earth was reclaiming what was hers. The city was quickly covered in green. No human in sight. And no one was safe. Orders were passed around that fire only spread the pathogens faster. They had to contain the spread to the city, as the infection easily assimilated normal humans. Arthur caught up with the commander. The two were attempting to brainstorm a solution to their problems. Arthur had seen the first calamity with his own eyes, and knew this was the great obscenity. But at the same time, it wasn't. The only explanation was that this calamity beast had true immortality. Immortality was not unheard of in nature. There was a jellyfish which, upon reaching maturity, returned to a juvenile state and started over, repeating this process forever. But even with this, it wasn't truly immortal. If it caught a disease, it would be eradicated. The same had to be true for the great obscenity. The commander processed the situation. The original radiation must have lain in wait, evolving over time. What we have here is the evolution of what we didn't finish the first time around. Those bastards. What do you mean, Arthur? The mask warned us this would happen. He ordered the government to treat every victim's radiation. that they had to remove every instance of the radiation in Day City. But it didn't take long for them to abandon the advice given to them. The group corruptly embezzled the money the mask had set aside for the victims. He warned us and we didn't listen. We'll have to discuss this later, author. We will get to the bottom of why this happened later. But now is the time for action. I need your monitoring division to track the obscenity's energy source. Inform me immediately if it spreads outside the city limit. And I need to know ASAP where the main source of energy is located. Commander, you're going to get yourself killed if you go up against that beast. Author, time is of the essence. At the moment that calamity hasn't surpassed rank 9. If I have any chance of defeating it, I have to do it now. The monster is more natural disaster than a combat force. All these things lie in my favor. This will be our only chance. If we fail, the price will be high. I'll get you what you need, Commander. Promise me you'll be careful. The news of the calamity was spreading around the world. The reporters in Sky City reported through their shock. But in this modern world, mainstream media wasn't the only place to receive updates of what was going on abroad. People conversed and stayed up to date through live streams on applications all around the world. And the top subject was the mask and his whereabouts. Even after tossing him out, the world still relied on his strength. No matter what the situation, Mask was always the solution and the scapegoat. Mankind was simply obsessed with their social media. Even in a life and death situation, you have to keep your Twitter updated. Who wants to read all this trash? Let's just skip through it. It seems the news is boring and just as useless as Twitter posts. Long story short, the commander is about to hand a beating to Mother Nature. So, let's skim through these news posts also. Here we go. He had finally found the being who was responsible. Qianlu waited on a flower high in the sky, looking like a goddess waiting to be worshipped. I've seen plenty of things just like you. If the world doesn't work the way you think it should, you will forcefully impose yourself upon it. There have been cases throughout history where humans follow monsters who pose to be biblical reincarnation of great beings. This was a common practice when monsters first appeared on our world. But in the end, even the humans you trick will see the light eventually. Author warned the commander that the little girl from earlier was gone and this was 100% a monster. The commander understood what was standing in front of him and continued their conversation. It was the last thing on my mind that only a few hours after seeing you that you would become such a monster. I bet you regret it. The only thing I regret is that I didn't slaughter you while you sat in that wheelchair. The commander charged up and shot a beam directly towards Qianlu's head, removing half her skull in the process. The cameraman gave all praise to the commander. He would end this before it started. He was most definitely the hope of Day. She reacted as if she had just received a light buzz cut. Qianlu glanced over her shoulder. A smile plastered on her face. It's useless. It only took her a few seconds to regain her previous human resemblance. The commander knew her rapid regeneration only spelled trouble for his attempts to save his city. This is crazy. Half her face was gone just now. But why isn't she dead yet? Isn't she just a monster? He would just have to hit her harder. He would continue to hit her until she didn't get up. His attacks had no effect. Her regeneration was just too strong. Is this the so-called sunlight that dispels darkness? She didn't waste any time throwing that into his face. And worse than that, she radiated killer intent towards him. The commander wasted no time retreating. But it was all in vain. She was much faster than him, and before he landed, she was on the offensive from behind his back as she continued to berate him with his words. They were moving so fast that the cameraman couldn't keep track of them with the naked eye. The commander realized the environment was a disadvantage to him. The monster was capable of moving to the vicinity of any plant in the city. And plants just so happened to be everywhere. Arthur was worried for the safety of the commander. There was no way he could win this fight. But the commander knew the outcome of retreating. The people in charge would resort to their ace in the hole. But even if he wished to retreat in his current situation, how would that be possible? It was time to put it all on the line. He removed his jacket. His seriousness evident on his face. The mask metal was precious to him. Qianlu the monster was relentless with her tongue. Is this what a trapped animal looks like? No, this is me living every second to the death. The commander let his elemental energy radiate from his body, sending the beam skywards. It is known that elemental professionals are not immune to elemental effects, so using elements till overload can result in death. This can only mean he's preparing a suicide attack on the Great Obscenity. But it turns out the commander was not committing suicide. He was using ultimate release, a move that used every last bit of his life energy in his attack. After this there wouldn't be anything left. Arthur was sure he was going to lose his friend on this day. Qianlu wasn't worried in the slightest that the commander had essentially just upgraded from level 7 to level 8. If the commander lived to see another day, he would be nothing more than an ordinary person, prone to sickness and disease. Like everyone else. He had no time for her silliness and instantly dashed in. She screamed that everything he did was futile. It only took a single thought, and she would move anywhere in the city. But to her surprise, his fists were faster than her mind. Half her body was blown away. But the commander was in no better shape. In his current condition he was prone to the infection. But his elemental lightning burned it away, causing an unparalleled pain. The cameraman should know better by now. That this wasn't going to end well. The commander's attack would only cause her to stop playing around and to become serious. Arthur pored over the data his instruments produced. The more he saw, the more he realized that her power spike didn't make any sense. And that's when it hit him. Antaeus is a figure from Greek mythology who was believed to be a giant and the son of the earth goddess, Gaia, and the sea god, Poseidon. According to the myth, Antaeus was undefeated in battle as long as he remained in contact with the earth. Hercules, the famous Greek hero, defeated Antaeus in a wrestling match by lifting him up off the ground, thereby breaking his connection to the earth and weakening him. The Great Obscenity was using the city and all the people in it as her power source. As long as she was here, she was essentially immortal. She's Legion. She's one, but also many. The Monitoring Bureau knew before anyone else that there was a change going on the battlefield. Qianlu's energy was rapidly rising, exceeding previous records recorded by the Bureau throughout history. The Great Obscenity was rapidly outpacing the commander's current level. It had no idea that humans could reach such heights by burning themselves alive. All the commander's life he had dreamed of wandering the world with the sword, protecting the innocents. With the power you had the ability to dispel the darkness. But instead, you chose to let so many people drown in the dark. I want to know why you made this choice. All the creatures in the city screamed why over and over, as they rushed to become one with their goddess. The civil defense soldiers couldn't hold their shields up any longer. But lucky for them, the rose heads had lost interest in destroying them. Their goddess needed them immediately. The soldiers were surprised to be alive. But as the shadow covered them in darkness, they realized this situation had just got serious. Vines swirled around Qianlu as she transformed into a being capable of destroying the world. The commander answered her, disappointing her and me alike. It's because of this damn world. And in this world, death is nothing new, and living isn't new either. The news continued to disappoint viewers. With premature reporting, people around the world cheered, believing the commander to be victorious. Qianlu's vines split, surrounding the commander as he approached her core. Since being alive is nothing new, then why don't you go to hell, along with everything in this damn world? She smashed him and tossed the petals away. Just like an egg against a stone. She couldn't help using his words one last time. With that, Commander Jiang didn't exist in this reality anymore. And the world stood there shocked. The daughter of the commander didn't want this thing burned into her daughter's mind for the rest of her life. People around the world was addicted to the mask. It's just as Qianlu said, this world is full of retards. They stood around, puzzled by what they were currently witnessing. It was time for the federal government to feel the wrath of the people. As it didn't take long for the world to need the presence of a mask. And the few fans he had left let their presence be known. Evacuation procedures began in the prison Xiao was being held in. The president of the Federation was furious. He couldn't get a single high-level professional to step up to the natural disaster in Day City. They needed someone to move now, not in 30 minutes. If they waited around that long, there wouldn't be a city to protect. He raged on about how if it wasn't for the sacrifices of the ones who came before, mankind wouldn't be here. If only you hadn't decided to be so ruthless when it came to the mask. The president took a seat knowing the statement to be true. It was time to resort to the one trump card mankind held. A small nuclear missile shouldn't hurt Day City that much. And the nuclear fallout afterwards should be minimum. Everybody was in agreement to level that city to the ground. They had no problem sacrificing the few to save the many. The president thought he was bloodthirsty, but these people were manic. The outcome of this situation would not leave him in a good light. Urgent news spread around the world that something was headed towards the natural disaster at high speed. The president's hopes rose. All this time, he hoped a professional was willing to stand up for mankind. He was informed that this wasn't good. The reports coming in referred to the other being as a monster. Their situation was going from bad to worse. Xiao had no problem exiting the prison. He cut through obstacles in his way as if they were nothing. The prison guard was in shock. All he could say was he escaped. The city defense force stood around in shock, grieving their loss. What could they do without the commander? It only took one among them to panic to trigger a full retreat. Their captain ordered them not to run, to stand their ground. He charged towards the rose heads by himself, determined not to see this day end in tragedy. But what exactly could a single soldier do? His act of defiance against the monsters caught the attention of one of the retreating soldiers, who decided he too would fight alongside the captain. He burst forward with a Rasengan, but before he could take 2 steps, a dark wave sliced through the area, leaving all the rose heads destroyed. Some unknown force had just saved their life. The great obscenity turned towards the incoming danger. "Sit tight. I'm going to go higher." The tower gave instructions that we must retreat. The cameraman wasn't planning on retreating that easy. His attention was drawn to the dark wave cutting a path through the overgrowth covering Day City. The people around the world weren't only ungrateful towards the mask. Anyone that stepped up was judged and looked down upon for not doing it sooner. The world really was just full of entitled, judgmental losers. Xiao made his way through the city, making quick work of each rose head in his path. The world believed him to be their hero. But Xiao wasn't interested in saving them. His actions were about his growth. The completion of his mission was all that concerned him. Monster's Path. Main mission. 6 Obscenity, Reincarnation. The natural disaster level monster that was once destroyed appeared again, and the shadow of destruction has enveloped the entire city. Mission objective: to eliminate the new natural disaster. Mission reward: the core of the great obscenity. Xiao knew firsthand that the last great obscenity's aura gave off the stench of decay. But this one's core aspects gave off the full vibes of life. The city was slowly becoming a primal forest. Tropical plants, vines and towering trees grew freely over everything. It was as if life was turning this area into its paradise. If no one was able to stop this natural disaster, the whole planet would become a beautiful wasteland to humans. The original decay, great obscenity, was just a form of evil. But this new great filth was the ultimate evil. Even though the task ahead was daunting, Xiao had no choice but to push forward. His goal was to obtain the heart of this beast, giving him the power to fight the monsters of the void who awaited him in the future. He had to kill it no matter what. Qianlu sent out a call to all beings on this planet. Living in this filthy world is an agonizing experience. I invite you to join me and surrender yourself to my cause completely. Together, we can create a world that is beautiful, free from sadness, pain, and injustice. Qianlu was acutely aware of how much she had changed. All the knowledge and experiences she had assimilated had merged with her being, and those who had sacrificed everything for their shared cause had become like family. They were united in their commitment to a life filled with joy and purpose. And as they continued to grow in numbers, more individuals would be welcomed into their community of purity, where they could thrive without the burden of sorrow. She was aware of the pain cutting its way towards her. She shouted, "Who is it?" Xiao never thought the monster he would face would be Qianlu. She wondered why he hadn't assimilated. Nothing should be immune to the pathogens she released in the air. Even the monster heading towards her should be susceptible to them. Xiao wasted no time attacking his old friend. He would do his best to free her from the prison that she resided in. She regrew the arm he decimated, with his first attack, continuing the swing to squash him. The rose heads would do whatever it took to protect their master, but they were only a slight distraction. But as he sliced them down, he sensed their intentions to explode in his presence. It's fast, too fast. The natural disaster is going to have trouble facing this beast. Just watching this battle is getting my adrenaline flowing and my heart pumping. The people around the world stood in awe of what they witnessed. Some wondered whether the monster before them was actually a professional who had the look of a monster. With each explosion and burst of ash, he narrowly avoided certain death. However, it was not sheer luck that kept him alive, but rather his strength and determination. To break through the blockade as quickly as possible, the humanoid creature deliberately skirted the edge of the explosions at the critical moment, saving precious time. But it was a calculated risk, and any misstep could result in his demise. He relied on his speed, agility, and keen insight to navigate the dangerous terrain. All three of these qualities were crucial to his survival. The ability of humans to battle monsters lies in their superior wisdom and skill. However, the ingenuity displayed by this humanoid monster exceeds even that of a seasoned 9th level professional. Although it resembles a human, the armor it wears is rather peculiar. If a day comes when monsters surpass human capabilities, what recourse will we have? Xiao made it through the bomb field as he crested Qianlu's shoulder. The wings of a gargoyle shot from his back. This move shocked the great obscenity. For Zhao's original approach was only to toy with her emotions. Most humans were shocked and didn't understand the ramifications of the actions of the monster. But seasoned professionals understood how much confidence it took to perform such a high level of deception. Xiao let blood raven flow. The attack decimated the head of the natural disaster, causing her to pause all functions. Everyone. The attack worked. It successfully split the monster's head. All the rose heads around the city came to a pause. They've stopped. You see, all the humanoid flowers in the whole city have stopped. They are all not moving anymore. Have we won? Did that monster eliminate the natural disaster? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Repeated over and over all throughout the city. Qianlu spotted Blood Raven. She knew who she faced even as she asked the question. Xiao held his tongue. Qianlu was in disbelief that Xiao turned out to be a monster also. She relaxed in his presence. The two of us don't have to fight. If we combine our strength, nothing on this planet could stand in our way. We can change this terrible world together. Qianlu presented her core as a peace offering. Item name: the core of the great obscenity. Item description: only those who have been recognized by the great obscenity can use this core. The power it releases is comparable to that of all of Mother Nature. Xiao was slightly tempted by such an offer. The two of us can cleanse this dirty world. Join us and we'll spread across this planet. We'll rise to the top of the highest mountain, and travel the depths of the lowest valleys. We'll travel by river and meet the sea, and spread throughout its depths. Anywhere there's darkness, we'll be there to illuminate it in light. And if the two of us aren't able to accomplish this goal, we will destroy the darkness along with everything on this planet. She let her mantra be known to the world. The pain of her words was felt in all of their hearts. The sound of tens of thousands of humanoid flowers shouting at the same time is so powerful that I feel my heart about to jump out of my chest. Is this natural disaster immortal? But what's more worrying is that these two monsters seem to know each other. Xiao continued to hold his tongue. Protect humanity? Cooperate with monsters? No, he had no interest in such things. Even before he was reborn, Xiao was sickened by the mere thought of them. Now that he had been reborn, there was only one thing that mattered to him: the complete annihilation of all monsters. To achieve this goal, Xiao was willing to transform into a monster, at the mercy of the system. All that matters now is acquiring the strength and power necessary to defeat every single monster that exists. Nothing will stand in his way, and Xiao would stop at nothing until every last one of them were eradicated. So you won't talk to me? Is ending this disaster all you care about? So we'll do it your way. Either you end me, or I end the world. Qianlu said it with pure joy. Her head exploded, sending vines directly for him. She entangled him, crushing him with all her strength. He retracted his gargoyle wings, and brought out his spider claws, slicing the vines apart. She instantly swallowed him whole. And Xiao exited through the back of her skull. He realized the brain didn't possess the target he was looking for. So, the next place he would look would be the heart. As he sliced into her back, he was met by resistance that proved he was on the right track. She tried every trick she had. She hardened the vines and regenerated them as he cut into her. She resorted to flinging out a wave of explosions, which Xiao ignored, continuing his onslaught surrounded in fire and brimstones. As his armor peeled from his face, his target was being revealed. And without hesitation Xiao fed Raven the blood of the great obscenity. Qianlu's true body hovered in the air, a blade in her chest. I didn't expect you to succeed in breaking a rock with an egg yet again, Xiao Qiu. Shao forced the blade through to the other side. He had spent all his energy accomplishing this goal. Qianlu gently caught him as he began to fall from the sky. She was stunned at how beautiful he was to her eyes. Mask couldn't hold a candle in his presence. Qianlu reassured him that the battle was over and he was the victor. She was living on the borrowed time that her power afforded her. Have we lost? Is Day City doomed? The cameraman's face lit up in pure horror. A noise no one could mistake could be heard cutting across the sky. The whole city froze in its presence. It lit up the storm clouds, announcing the doom the city would soon face. A nuclear bomb streaked across the sky. The cameraman reported this to the world. The big shots at the Federation had decided to forsake Day City for the sake of the world. The Federation president begged for forgiveness. What have I done? It's true. They are completely heartless, willing to sacrifice not just some monsters like you and me, but also an entire city if it suits their purpose. What a callous disregard for life. At the very least, I'll make sure everyone sees what kind of people who lead the Federation truly are. This will be my final act before I die. With that, Qianlu calmly walked back into her giant amalgamation. The rose heads rushed to lend her their strength. She reached out towards the nuke, ready to meet it with a gentle embrace. As she did so, she transformed into Yggdrasil, the tree of life. The nuke was only moments from contact. People around the world held their breath. As the people of Day City prepared to die, Qianlu consumed the nuke, protecting the city as best she could. The roses that had been in the vicinity vanished in an instant. Qianlu did all she could to protect Shao from the blast. She cocooned him in her strongest vines. The mushroom cloud blossomed, as the impact spread across the city. The few people who were lucky enough to be shielded wondered if it was all over. The Monitoring Bureau confirmed that the energy source the natural disaster was emitting ceased to exist. Director Arthur spoke to the memory of Commander Jiang. Old friend, Day City has been secured. As his honor jacket drifted to the ground. Did the natural disaster just protect the city from the nuclear missile on purpose? No way that's the case. You must have seen it wrong. Qianlu split open, showering the city with cherry blossom petals. The sight was truly beautiful. A little girl danced around in the flowers as her father worried for her safety. But as she made contact with the petals, nothing happened. The calamity was truly over. Shao held Qianlu in his arms as she said her parting words. I didn't realize that spring was this beautiful. As she reached up, she vanished into a sparkle of green dust. Monster's Path. Main task: destruction of the reincarnation of the Great Obscenity completed. Reward. Core of the Great Obscenity delivered. A green heart pulsed in Zhao's hand. He was shocked that he had obtained the heart of such an evil enemy, and a dear friend. Without a second thought, Zhao equipped the heart of the Great Obscenity, and vanished from Day City. People watching at home were ecstatic for the survival of mankind. Everyone was so wrapped up in their own celebration that no one noticed the rose heads reverting back to humans. Yen-Cece had been one of the rose heads this entire time. The people at home were shocked to silence by what they were witnessing. A few among them realized that even the people who were destroyed by the bombs were returning to life. The internet message boards filled with people arguing over the merits of whether the nukes should have been used or not. The next most popular topic revolved around the mask. The opinions ranged from being for the mask to people believing that humanity would always fare well without him. After the incident, the government cleared the internet of all traces of their crime against humanity. It didn't matter if it was a live stream or a news broadcast. All of it vanished without a trace. The big shots sat around the Federation headquarters meeting room in Star City. The topic of discussion was how they would seamlessly move forward from this incident. Sir, we have controlled the discussion of the incident. But majority of the people in the world witnessed what happened in Day City. Because we used public opinion to condemn the mask. The public won't rest until we explain ourselves to them. The president sat there ignoring the whole lot of them. The vultures were at his door. How had he ended up in such a situation? He knew the members around him were plotting his demise. The president's right-hand man had an idea that would place the blame squarely on who was responsible for this incident. Even though everyone here agreed to use the nuclear weapon to exterminate the natural disaster. How has the mask got away with taking zero responsibility for this incident? Mr. Song? How can this be related to the mask? We have no idea where he's hiding. That's exactly the reason why this event is his responsibility. If he had been there, none of this would have happened. The world is paying a heavy price because of his choices. All those pointless sacrifices were because of him. He throws all of the sacrifices humanity made for him in our faces. And he dares leave without even saying goodbye, forgetting the world's generosity in an instant. So, the responsibility of what happened in Day City lay squarely on his shoulders. Everyone in the headquarters meeting room was left speechless by the line of logic presented. The president remained seated long after everyone had left, his second-in-command assuring him that he would take care of everything, down to the smallest details. In truth, the president wasn't worried in the slightest. A new player had emerged on the scene, and even if this pawn was only 1/10 as strong as the mask, it would still be enough to solve all of humanity's problems. The president turned his attention to the matter at hand, the Morning Sun Plan. His right-hand man explained that since Experiment 268 had been successful, the plan had been moving forward rapidly. There were numerous test subjects who, even without activating the new human state, were able to live stable lives for a long period of time. However, activating the new human state carried the risk of causing the body to rapidly enter into a state of collapse. Despite this, there was still insufficient evidence to determine whether the fusion of monsters and humans wasn't entirely feasible. If the mask was the one who saved humanity from extinction, then we will be the ones who elevate humanity to heights never before seen, he said confidently. When the power of monsters becomes accessible to all of mankind, we will be elevated to the level of gods. The battlefront against the monsters spans not just a single line, but an expansive area of up to 1 million square kilometers. In ancient times, this area was a part of Africa, South America, and even Antarctica, as recorded in the Dark Age. However, in the 100 years since humanity was nearly wiped out, the land has undergone terrifying tectonic shifts and collisions, compressing the natural processes that would have taken millions of years into a mere century. As a result, the landscape is almost unrecognizable, with towering mountains and newly formed bodies of water where there was once flat terrain. Before the arrival of the army led by the mask, there was no sign of humans on the front lines. Monsters that emerged from the secret realms had taken over the entire area. These monsters not only lived in their own cities, but also relentlessly attacked humans in other regions, resulting in countless casualties. There is a place even more dreaded than the front lines of the monster battle. It was a small city in the country once known as Thailand, but is now infamous as the birthplace of calamity. This is the very spot where all the horror and devastation began. And it was only thanks to Mask that humanity was able to set foot on this land once again. With his unstoppable methods, he compressed and twisted the demon's land like the wrath of gods, turning it into the front line between humans and monsters. From living day to day not knowing if they would survive, to making rapid progress, everything was made possible by this godlike man. Inside a dense forest blocked by mountains on all sides, 4 soldiers guarded the entrance to a portal. They argued about who would explain what happened to their captain. They all feared her response as she exited the portal. She had just cleared a secret realm with a demon boss of level 7, doing so while being rank 7 herself in only 30 minutes. The power of their captain Jiangling was amazing. No wonder she was known as a genius. Why do you all look so dumb? What's going on? Speak up. A natural disaster level monster appeared in Day City. The incident was resolved, but your father Commander Jiang perished in the attack. He sacrificed himself for the well-being of the whole city. It was a magnificent display that brings honor to your family's name. Noted, we'll head to the next secret realm. As the group marched through the forest, Captain Jiangling's underlings hung back, gossiping. Do you think she's really okay? Of course, she's okay. Her nickname isn't Unmovable Ice for no reason. They both straightened up as she threatened to have them both sent to the atonement camps. The formation of secret realms in the monster front lines occurs at an accelerated rate compared to anywhere else in the world. It is only through the efforts of Commander Jiangling's team and their high efficiency that the number of secret realms forming in a continuous manner can be kept under control. The stronger the team, the more secret realms they had to contend with, and her team was no exception. They were seriously worried for their captain, and one of them felt it was wise to accompany her into the secret realm, even though they hadn't fought alongside her in a long time. They didn't want their group to become her permanent cheerleaders. She didn't mind their concern, but could not let them doubt her skills. With her spear in hand, she walked into the dungeon alone, disappearing into the portal. Her team felt relieved as her presence vanished into the portal, and hoped for her safe return. as she traveled deeper into the dark cavern without facing a single monster. Surprise was clear in her eyes as she found them all slaughtered. It seemed a certain protagonist had relocated to a more secluded location, and was obviously putting great effort into achieving his goals. Thank you for watching. We'll be back soon with another exciting installment, so stay tuned and hit